Warning: this video contains my opinions on this topic, so you may not agree with it. If you don't agree with my points, that's fine, but don't try to shove your opinion down other people's throats. Thank you. Melee classes in games can sometimes be hard but fun to play as. Their playstyles are usually risk versus reward, but revolve around being defensive or offensive. Since they can be easily outranged by other classes, they are given abilities to compete with others. For example, Doomfist from Overwatch can easily move fast with his abilities, due to the game being fast-paced, while the Spy from Team Fortress 2 can sneak behind enemies and backstab them for a quick kill, so he can stand a chance against the massive firepower in the game. Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2's melee classes, however, loosely tie their abilities together, which don't work out against other characters. This made the two classes that we know today, the Chomper and the Super Brains. As most of us know, Garden Warfare 2 is quite the broken game. It has too many problems that there are too much to count. One of those problems are stuns. I think something we can all agree upon is that stuns are not fun to play against. It stops or slows down other players, which makes them not being able to defend themselves. It gives away a free kill with only one push of a button. It's cheap and easy. It's also a bit of a lazy way to make characters viable. If a character has a hard time surviving when trying to get kills, just give them a stun. Now they're more useful by restricting the movement of others. The Chomper and Super Brains have stuns as one of their abilities, which makes them problematic.
The Chomper is more of a sneaky melee kind of character. He really tries to catch the enemy by surprise.
Judging by the way Chomper was advertised, he was intended to be a stealthy predator waiting for its prey. Armed with traps, he would be the perfect melee class. But the abilities he was given was formed in such a way where he became problematic. Spikeweeds were handed over to the Chomper to trap zombies, the Burrow to safely and stealthily approach players, and the Goop to easily go up to zombies. However, Garden Warfare 2's current XP system rewards lots of kills rather than kill streaks. In other words, it's more rewarding to suicide to get kills rather than be careful and get kill streaks. This leads to Chompers just jumping into groups of players to get a single kill, dying and repeating this process just to rack up lots of points. This becomes annoying for the zombie team as there's no real risk for Chompers to constantly die, and it becomes a game of cat and mouse as it's guaranteed that Chompers will be looking everywhere to eat zombies. All the abilities make it easier for Chompers to accomplish this. The Goop stuns players so that they can't escape, the Burrow grants the Chomper an effortless approach, and the Spikeweed too stuns players. Let's go into further detail of these abilities. The problem with the Goop is that players can't really tell when they're going to get gooped, and when they do, there's not much they can do about it. It kind of creates this RNG factor, and there's already enough RNG in this game to begin with. The only real way to avoid Goop is to have a greater game sense, but even then, the Goop has a wide radius, so it's almost impossible to avoid. Add on to the fact that you can barely move and your sensitivity goes way low, so it's a high chance that you're going to die. The Goop is a cheap ability where it grants players a free kill. Abilities should help players get kills, not give them. There's a lot of abilities in this game that give out free kills, which is a major mistake in shooters. I believe that it should be replaced with an ability that gives a chance for the zombie to react and not be completely helpless. But the Chomper is heavily reliant on the Goop, because zombies can outrun the Chomper due to its slow movement speed. The Chomp Cannon, while being a good damage dealer, is slow to deploy and removes one of the main ways that Chompers get kills. The Chomp Cannon trades in stunning for raw damage, but only kills people if they have 100 health or less, and that's a direct hit. Without the Goop, the Chomper has a harder time getting kills, since he can't as easily walk up to players and just chomp on them. They're bound to notice and shoot the Chomper down. The Spikeweed, being a stun, is not entirely unfair. Players who are aware can avoid and destroy the Spikeweeds, while if Chompers know the map, they can hide the Spikeweeds to catch unsuspecting players. This would have been nice if Garden Warfare 2's map design was more grassy and had more camouflaging areas. Now it's easier to see Spikeweeds, and the best places to put them now are at corners on top of stairs. One hitch of this, though, is the fact that you can place spike weeds directly under zombies and entirely trap them. While the chomper does have to go straight up to the zombie to do this, the chomper is already close enough to take the damage until he's able to trap, and it completely stuns the zombie and renders them absolutely useless. It gives the zombie almost no chance to defend himself, and once he's trapped, it's over. Another drawback, albeit minor, for the spikeweed is that it's hard to tell once a zombie is trapped or not. In Garden Warfare 1, they hung upside down, which is a clear sign that they've been stunned. In Garden Warfare 2, they just stand still, and that may give players the idea that they're just AFK or something. The burrow is probably one of the most balanced abilities in Chomper's arsenal. It gives players a chance to hear the chomper approaching and requires game sense to notice it, even though sometimes the burrow audio is glitched. It also protects the chomper from most external attacks. It's fair for everyone. However, the XP system encourages to use this ability to safely rush into a bunch of zombies and easily get a kill with no skill required. The burrow would have been fine if they didn't change the XP system like that. Plus, the hit registration in this game is broken, so sometimes you can be directly under someone but can't eat them. Which leads me to my next point. Biting and eating. Why isn't there a separate bite and eat button? You know how you're fighting this one zombie in front of the whole enemy team, and you're just trying to finish him off quickly and escape? Sometimes you might accidentally eat the zombie and be completely helpless. You can even eat someone from the front side without meaning to. There's a whole animation dedicated to that. Why, PopCap? If you know about that, why didn't you bother to fix it? Why did you take the time to make an animation for something broken instead of using that time to fix the hitbox registration? Or how about adding a separate bite and eat button? You can choose when to bite or eat, which will change up playstyles and have chomper players actually make smart decisions instead of suiciding. They can even implement this with burrow, making the bite do more damage than regularly biting since he used up the ability. It's two risk versus reward options. You can either take the time to dwindle a zombie's health, or kill them in a short amount of time but be very vulnerable for a moment. Also, Chomper is just too darn vulnerable. His head hitbox, also known as his crit box, is like 80% of his body. Some of his variants are straight downgrades from others, and after eating, he moves at the speed of a turtle. He takes quite a while to digest without digestion upgrades, which new players will struggle with. They'll take a long time to finally be able to freely move again, and in that amount of time they're eating, they'll probably get shot down. In summary, Chomper has unfair abilities but is also pretty weak. The abilities were better handled in Garden Warfare 1. Due to some changes in design, Garden Warfare 2 made them problematic. Since the game devs intended that Chomper be defensive predator / stealth class, he should be fixed or reworked in that way. Goop could be replaced with a speed or defensive boost so that players won't be stunned and have a chance to react and defend themselves. The Chomp Cannon is okay, but compared to the Goop, it's not that viable. It's best to keep it if they were to replace Goop. The Burrow is fine, but just fix the hit registration, the audio, and the killing XP system. For the Spikeweed, they can make the Spikeweed camouflage or change color with its environment. And for Chomper itself, reduce the size of his crit box and make him digest just a bit faster so that eating and biting are two good options. Chomper should be reworked in a way to make him lean towards being stealthy and waiting for your opponent, but still be able to walk up to enemies without being too vulnerable or too strong. The Chomper, in its current state, is not what PopCap intended him to be.
Zomboss engineered him as the punchy powerhouse and PR rep for Z-Tech.
It seems that the game devs wanted Super Brains as an offensive, aggressive class that focuses damage on single targets rather than crowd control. However, his capabilities make the class an awkward one to play. Looking at his abilities and realizing that he was supposed to be a frontline fighter makes you wonder why he was crafted with weirdly made abilities and restrictive movement. He's slow and can't attack in the air despite him having a high jump. When jumping in the air, if you bump into something, you will stop moving and will fall down. The heroic kick also suffers from this restrictive movement. Sure, it's a fairly decent tool to knock people back, but if you bump into anything, and I mean anything, you'll come to a complete stop. Add on to the fact that you can't steer the direction you want during the kick restricts a lot of the movement. The only ways he can keep up is his high jump to climb to high places and swoosing, which still is restrictive because bumping into something causes you to stop. His beam is another problem. It contradicts his intended melee playstyle because of the good damage output. It's also a much safer bet to use rather than running out there and exposing yourself since you're not in much danger. Even Cosmic Brains indirectly encourages range play over meleeing. Its beam is significantly stronger than the other variants due to having higher damage per second and the punches not having a combo attack. It does 20 damage if you don't charge it and has a slow rate of fire. It's weird to have a secondary attack that is stronger than the main attack. Speaking of punches, I like how Super Brains does combos where each consecutive punch does more damage, as opposed to Chomper's 25 on each bite. It rewards hitting players consistently. However, he doesn't have an insta-kill feature like the Chomper does, which makes him struggle to get kills without dying so much. He cannot attack in mid-air at all, which also limits his capabilities. He can only do one punch right before he jumps. However, it only comes in handy in very rare moments. The Super Ultra Ball is a good damage dealer and can even weaken or kill plants before you go up to them. It's one of the best abilities in Super Brains' toolset. The only gripe I have for this is that you are vulnerable for quite a while, especially when you're high in the air. Nevertheless, it's a balanced ability. Finally, the last ability in the set, the Turbo Twister. It's one of the most controversial complications in the game, alongside Imkana. These multi-hit abilities are a pain to balance, seeing as at first launch they were overpowered, but in their current states they're laughably weak. Turbo Twister's stun mechanic is one of the reasons why it was complained about many. Once you got sucked into its radius, you were doomed to die. Now it can barely even kill a sunflower. It's terrible at dishing out damage, and you're better off punching instead. The other thing that lots of players have grumbled about is its resistance. It's very good. It blocks about half of the damage, and at this point, it's best to use it to protect yourself while escaping or taking damage instead of using it to attack due to its pathetic damage output. In short, Super Brains' abilities doesn't support a close range playstyle and instead makes some weird hybrid of a ranged and melee character. The fact that he can't attack while in the air and his jumping mechanics being wonky really cut down his mobility. Since he's not very mobile, players tend to rely more on the beam, which contradicts his melee playstyle. To fix him, his movement should be reworked. Make it so that whenever he collides into something while jumping, he scales it, as well as being able to control a bit better in the air. He should also be able to attack in the air so that he isn't helpless when he hops high. The beam should be replaced with some sort of defensive or speed boost to aid him when charging into and out of battle, since he struggles to move around without taking massive amounts of damage. But this is the same idea I have for the Turbo Twister. It's only really good as a defensive tool rather than using it to attack, so I think it's best that it will be tuned that way. Instead of hurting and pulling plants in, it should push them away a little bit to avoid taking lots of damage, while also maintaining a damage resistance. The heroic kick should have more mobility options, like either being able to turn directions or not stopping when bonking into things, but slide along the object for a bit. The Super Ultra Ball is fine in its current state. It doesn't need to be changed. Last but not least, I think there should be more of a reward for continuously comboing someone without missing, such as slightly more damage after each combo. Let's say you hit all your punches on a plant, and then go in for some more punches. After the first combo, the next combo would do slightly more damage than the first time to compensate for the lack of an insta-kill feature like the Chomper does. There possibly could be a timer on this too, so if you don't successfully combo someone within a limited amount of time, the extra damage would stop. As well, there should be a limit for the increased damage so that you can't take out high health plants quickly. For the most part, Super Brains was planned to be an aggressive and offensive melee class that can get in and get out. He should be changed with that in mind, so he can be a viable melee class. Right now, he's torn between being a sniper and a close quarters combatter. In conclusion, the abilities and mechanics of these classes and the game ended up making these characters weird to play as, and they struggled to fit themselves with other characters outclassing them. The devs try to supply them with abilities to fit their playstyle, but either they aren't balanced well enough, or they just don't work out. Unless PopCap pulls a big surprise, Garden Warfare 2 will never be fixed to the point to reach Garden Warfare 1's expectations, as it's too broken to be fixed at this point. With the next Plants vs. Zombies game coming out soon, we'll only hope that PopCap will learn from their mistakes.